owned parks and open space, and will you support the Charter Amendment ballot proposal?
Okay, let's start on the at-large side of the House, and Mr. Weber.
Get my mic back on here. Obviously this came out of the water reservoir, water storage discussion, and I think viable locations in terms of the water reservoir discussion became a hot topic, and that kind of got this in motion in terms of this Parks Charter Amendment. I did support the language that will be presented to voters on November 8th regarding the Parks Amendment, and I did provide my signature to place it on the ballot. We need to continue to have this community discussion, and that's why I did that. Certainly there remains concerns about how we keep the character of our community in place for years to come. And the Green Space Millage has served the purpose of protecting the areas that have been purchased for, from future development. And I think, certainly there's discussion about what do we do with some of our undeveloped parks. And, I know that there's some discussion in terms of Riverbend Park and the Tinkin Park, Nowicki Park. Right now we don't have the money in the budget to develop them as, walkable, usable parks the way Bloomer, Borden, Spencer Park are, but certainly they still have a vital role in our community. So.
Mark Tisdale.
Well, I think that the Parks Amendment is bad economic policy, and I think it's bad public policy. On the public policy side, the Charter Commission was charged with writing a comprehensive guiding document that takes all contingencies, future contingencies into play. The Parks Amendment radically changes the very second sentence of the Charter. The second sentence of the Charter reads, "The city and its officers shall have the power to basically manage and control municipal property, whether such powers be expressly enumerated or not." And the second clause reads that the power of the city under this charter shall be liberally construed. The Parks Amendment not only adds another step of requiring a vote, it will add time for any opportunity to creatively utilize parks in the generation of additional revenues in the future. Our property values are down 1/3 since July 2005 right now. That's similar nationally. It's estimated that it will take 10 to 20 years to get that value back. There's a huge overabundance of large lot single family homes in the United States right now. The number of dual parent families where funding or purchasing power is concentrated is the same as it was 40 years ago. So we're looking at perhaps a 30 to 40% reduction in demand for single parent or large lot single family homes. We're going to need to be creatively using every single piece of property and every single asset that we have in the city in the future to maintain the core components of public safety and infrastructure.
Thank you. Dee Hilbert.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. I want to relate to you. I have a long history of protecting the parks. I think they're vital for our property values. One thing I've heard from this community through the years is how much they love their parks and their pathways and the rivers and the trees, and they're very important. People love having woods in their backyard. About 10 years ago, the city was trying to develop on the landfill, and they wanted to put a 3-acre detention basin on Riverbend Park, and I was opposed then because the voters voted to raise their taxes to purchase park property for recreation. And the city's stance on that is once the bond is paid off, that they can do what they want with the property, and I feel that was wrong. I've been opposed to that for many years. When the water reservoir issue came up last year, the residents were up in arms when they found out that the city wanted to do this on the park properties, and I support the efforts of the residents that got the ballot, the referendum put on the ballot, and I support it because I think it's important. And if a developer or somebody wants to come in this community and use our parks, they're going to have to bring it to us and explain it to us and give us a good business case, and then we can decide as a community what we want to do with our park, whether we want to support that kind of whatever the development is. And I just strongly support it, and I hope that the rest of the Rochester Hills voters will too. Thank you.
Kathleen Fitzgerald? Can you turn your mic on? You might just want to leave that on.
I believe that parks should be used for recreation. That's why in my campaign literature I have proposed that the underutilized park space in Rochester Hills be looked at to facilitate a dog park in Rochester Hills. I think that a dog park could be utilized on park property. There's nothing that people are more passionate about than their pets, more than their children sometimes. Well, maybe more than their children all the time. And I think that we could get a swell of citizen support to make a dog park in one of our parks that aren't utilized. And it would also generate revenue for the city. We're looking at trying to have a balanced budget to generate revenue, and a dog park in one of those parks I think would be a real asset to our community. When my daughter comes with her dog to our house, she has to go up to Orient Oaks or to Madison Heights to go to a dog park. Why not have a dog park here in Rochester Hills? Thank you.
From our District 2 candidates, Adam Kokendorfer.
Well, it's a great question. I do support the Parks Amendment. When I talk with residents, that's one of our distinguishing characteristics, is our green spaces and our parks and our pathways. I've talked to people that that's the reason that they moved to this city. It's unique. It's something not a whole lot of other communities have, and we have to protect it. That's why I'm on the Green Space Advisory Board. I'm on the committee tasked for getting the word out and what the city is doing to protect that property. But I'm always also a little leery of when we propose charter amendments. I know what people can do with language. And so initially I saw the initial language and actually worked with Mr. Gary Ewell to close some of the loopholes. Initially there was the possibility that someone could have actually used the language to do things on parks or green spaces that they couldn't do now. And so I worked with them and had some revisions to make sure to get as tight as we can to ensure that that property, the green space, is permanently protected, as it always has been since we passed that millage, and that the parks property, that we don't have any unintended consequences through the amendment. I'm satisfied with it now and support it.
Thank you. Lori Puskas.
Well, I've lived here for longer than a year, and I'll say that I actually voted for a parks millage. And, you know, when we look at our green spaces in our parks, they're one of the features that differentiate our community from other communities. And when you look at the community survey that took place, it was at the top of the list as to why people moved to the Rochester Hills. And so I think it is very important that we protect our green spaces in our parks. Now, it was written in that our green space into the millage, that it would be protected. And like was mentioned earlier, parks, once the bond was paid off, that was it. Anything can be done with it. And, you know, I think parks have to do with our community, our way of life, our quality of life, and it's important to the residents. And I'm sorry, but if it's a little bit slower of a process, so be it. I think that's good because it gives us time to communicate more to the residents and for things not to be slipped through. And I don't think that every piece of property in the city needs to be developed. I think it hurts the character of the city and will in effect end up lowering our values even more. So, you know, as far as priorities, I would never vote to spend money to develop parks further and take away from our essential services. So I think that's important. However, there are ways to obtain money for developing our parks. There is a lot of money through the Natural Resources Trust Funds, through grant applications. And I actually met with Pat McKay out at the Van Hoosen Museum. They're working on rehabilitating a dairy barn out there right now. And with the money that's already been donated, they can get $500,000, $1 million in grant money to help do that. And so there are a lot of ways that we can go after money without going to our residents and asking them to help pay for it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question